What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning into a brand new episode of 60 Days Living. Right now, I'm being dangerous and filming while I drive. I'm headed to the gym right now because I need to do so. But this past weekend, wasn't able to get out and do any yard selling or go to any thrift shops. The reason for is my wife and I and some friends were up in the woods camping. But one of the cool things is when we got back into town and I had cell phone service again, I got 3 notifications saying I had sold 3 items on eBay, 3 different video games. And you know, one of the sayings is the key to being rich is to learn to make money while you sleep. And I was able to make money while I camp. So, you know, just doing little things to get to that point in life where I can make money while I sleep or money while I camp. But this week's episode, I was talking to one of my buddies who started his own podcast, because if you watched last week's episode, you know that I started my own podcast. And so I just talked with him to see what he did to kind of get things rolling and get things off the ground with his podcast. And so hope you enjoy the episode. Let me know what you think. Comment below. Follow my podcast on iTunes, 60 Days to Living. Go check me out on Instagram or Facebook, 60 Days to Living. And enjoy the episode. What's going on? So just got done with the gym. And before we get into this episode, I want to say one thing. I hate the gym. And that's so crazy to me because like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 years ago, like I couldn't even function during the day if I didn't make it to the gym in the morning. I think that was because, you know, in high school I was overweight. I weighed 240 pounds, and then over the course of 3 years I got all the way down to 140 pounds. So I lost 100 pounds in 3 years. And then, you know, I had probably an unhealthy relationship with food, and the gym kind of helped me establish that healthy relationship again. And then I started going to the gym religiously, didn't miss a day, sometimes go twice a day. And I mean, like I could tell when I was working out hard and I was doing what it took to progress. And it's just so crazy to me now that I absolutely hate the gym. Like, I can't stand it. I hate going in there. I hate, you know, that I'm weak now. I hate that none of my clothes fit, but I just don't have the motivation to crush it like I used to, and it's just kind of weird. And I wonder if, you know, my focus has shifted to other things in life, which is sad because the gym was such a big part of my life for so long. But I know I need to focus on the gym. I need to get better at going, and I need to lose weight because there seems to be a correlation. Successful people are usually in shape. I'm not always, but there seems to be a correlation most of the time. And that's because, you know, they have, you know, their own motivation. They have their own willpower and their own, you know, schedule and routine that they get in, and they just attack things. And so I know for myself, I need to start hitting the gym a lot more instead of once a week, getting motivated for one day and then getting there and realizing I hate this place. But right now, tonight, I hate this place. I hate the gym. So I know this episode's all over the place, so without further ado, we're going to get into this episode, the interview with Shane and talking about podcasts. So enjoy. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for checking out a brand new episode of 60 Days to Living. So this week, I'm at my friend's house. His name is Shane Larson. Shane, you want to say hi?
Yeah, what's going on, everybody?
So Shane started his own podcast called the Gametime Guru. You can go find it on iTunes or any of those other listening platforms. But the reason I wanted to talk to Shane is if any of you watched my episode last week, for the 12 of you that did, you'll know that I started my own podcast. So I wanted to take the time and talk with Shane about some of the things he did to prepare for launching his podcast and how he's kind of gotten things rolling and off the ground and kind of what he plans to do with it in the future. So for me, like the YouTube channel and the podcast aren't necessarily things that I plan on ever really bringing any monetary benefit to me, right? Like they're things that I do to build momentum in other areas of business that I'm working on. Shane, on the other hand, like he's really put a lot of time and effort into this, and things have started moving along for him. And I know that that's kind of something that he wants to use this for, is to either allow him to not necessarily go to work every week or to make additional money or to have this be his full-time job. One of the things I wanted to ask Shane real fast, before I start getting into what he did to start this podcast, is I wanted to ask him a question. Some of you guys know I left one of my old jobs to go to the one that I'm working at, and answering these 3 questions kind of helped me make that decision in the end. So Shane, here's the question. What do you feel are the 3 most important things to be successful or happy?
That's a really good question. I truly believe that if you're surrounding yourself with positive people, that's going to help you be successful. So there's a quote that I used to have next to my desk. I usually will print off like motivational quotes and put them at my desk at work. One of them was, if you hang with chickens, you're going to cluck. If you hang with eagles, you're going to soar. So I think to be successful and be happy, I guess for that matter, you want to surround yourself with positive people that are like-minded, or at least just not negative all the time, you know? So being around positive people.
So
go ahead.
1 is surroundings. That's what you put, right?
Yes.
Surroundings. Okay, number 2.
Number 2, I think that doing what you love, and I think that's cliche. A lot of people say you got to do what you love. There's a lot of quotes out there for that too, you know. But I really believe that if you're doing what you truly enjoy doing, whether you're making money on it or not, maybe one day it will lead you to the right path, right? So that's why I do my podcast, and I think maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I just doing things that you love keeps you happy because your mind needs that refreshing, that refreshing topic, that refreshing thing that you do every day that makes you happy. So just doing things that you love, whether you're monetizing off of it or not, will make you happy, which in the long term will lead to other things.
Surroundings and doing what you love. What's number 3?
I was thinking about this earlier. Is your uncle told us this? I think it's your uncle or your great uncle?
Yeah, great uncle.
Okay.
Crazy
Smell the
story.
roses.
Yeah.
Smell the roses. Enjoy the journey. Whatever you're doing, if you want to be happy or be successful, you have to enjoy the now. Don't be focused so much always on the future and get so caught up in what I need to be here. Maybe just enjoy the journey. So I find myself being happier and I don't know necessarily more successful, but like happier in my everyday, like day to day, when I enjoy the now. I find time to actually enjoy what's going on at that specific moment.
Oh, I have surroundings, doing what you love, and being able to enjoy the now.
Yeah.
Smelling the roses. Ours differ, but so the 3 I put, number 1 was surroundings, right? Totally agree with that. Like, proximity is power, and the people you surround yourself with are going to either lift you up or bring you down. Number 2, you said do what you love. I put work ethic, right? So I think what you're able to bring to the table or the effort that you put in will obviously determine, how far you go. And then number 3 for me, you said was to enjoy the journey. Mine was ability to assess and take risks. The ability to understand what you have to do, whether it's to make a career change or to, stop being friends with someone or really start putting more effort, like focus less in certain areas of your life, and, to do them. So I think that's 2-part, right? So the ability to assess and take risks, but also when you realize, like, this is the risk I need to take, it's being able to actually start. And I've mentioned that in my podcast and on here, like, just starting is what it takes, right? That's what you've done with your podcast, right? So you started this podcast, and that actually leads right into the next question. What made you decide to start this podcast? And maybe, the 3 answers you just gave us will probably tie into that, but what made you decide to start your podcast?
So from a young age, man, I've just loved sports media. Like, sports media has been my passion. Just sports, everything. When I got older, I realized, like, if I want to go to a profession, how am I going to do that? I can't play professionally. I've never been that good. Well, sports media is the route I decided to go. I didn't even know where to get started, and it happened to be my next to last semester at Boise State. I mean, I always listen to podcasts, but I never really thought about doing my own true podcast until Bob Beeler came in. He's the voice of the Boise State Broncos. He was a guest speaker in our class. I was all giddy. I was raising my hand asking every single question I possibly could.
Yeah.
I said, what do I do if I want to get into this field of work? I want to be on a radio talk show. I want to be able to talk sports all day and get paid for it. How do I do that? First thing he said was, well, you need to have something recorded. Yeah. So he told me, go home, and whether or not you have a podcast or you just have a computer, start recording your own voice. But you need something recorded so you can continue to get better and better and better. And I, at that point, I hadn't started the podcast yet, but I went home and I started thinking, what can I do to get this thing off the ground? And that's when I started, really thinking about sports podcasts and started researching for it. And then I began it about 4 months later.
You mentioned the getting giddy, right?
Right.
And that ties into doing what you love. Like, I think that kind of hit you like, this is what I love. This is what I want to do. And so it kind of but motivated you to start your channel. And I think, that's a lot of people probably wish they could have that realization or that aha moment. And it sounds like you had that when Bob Bueller came into your class. What steps did you take to kind of get everything started and off the ground? Like, what did you start doing to start?
That's everybody's biggest fear. Like you just said, like getting started sometimes is the hardest thing, so you have to find a way to do it. So what I did is I just opened up the computer, started Googling everything. Started Googling podcasts, how to get a podcast started, what are the benefits of podcasts, what are the toughest things that what are the challenges you'll face when starting a podcast. I started looking at it, I almost got overwhelmed, but it was just simply opening up my computer and actually taking the time to start Googling. And I wanted to, my first night, believe it or not, I have to have a structure. So
He's very structured. He's almost like, your grandpa? He's like your grandpa. He goes to breakfast at the same time each morning. He gets the same plate of food. He hangs out with the same people, and he goes bowling on the same night. Like, that's Shane. Like, Shane is 100% structured.
So to go along with that, then the first night I wanted to have 10 articles that I read, whether it be, academic articles or just articles that other podcasters had written, like bloggers had put together about their own podcast. I just wanted to have 10 articles, so I actually believe that gave me a really, really solid foundation of how I wanted to start it, or what I needed to do going forward to get it started.
So you were like a self-starter. You didn't wait for someone to tell you what to do or hold your hand and take you through it. And that's like, we're all lucky. If we want to go do something, all it takes is hopping on a computer and Googling. Like, hop on Google, be a self-starter, and just do it yourself. Like, you Googled it. Did you pay anybody for that information?
No.
You just Googled it. You decided you're going to start it, and you did it. I think that's awesome. You're building a following. You have Instagram followers. You're starting to build that Facebook following. You actually have people interacting with you on the Anchor app. Right. You have people listening and leaving reviews on your podcast. So, like, it's starting to pick up steam and everything. Like, what do you want to accomplish with the podcast? Is there a certain goal you have in mind? Like, are you not sure yet? But I mean, like, what do you want to accomplish with this?
So eventually, I would like to be able to monetize, be able to make money off of it, and I know what I need to do to get there. But another goal of mine with this podcast is to use it as a platform to possibly get to another job. I can show them that I have X amount of episodes that I put together, that I can interview individuals. I can use editing software. I've been able to utilize all these things and learn these skill sets on my own. And so I'm using it as a platform not only to monetize and build my own podcast, but to also help me in the future if I decide to go work for a corporation. Now, if I were to work for somebody else, I want to work for like ESPN and those major networks that I've always wanted to work for.
You're building a portfolio. Like I talked about earlier, I think I said, like, I know for myself, I don't really want to monetize these. I probably can't, to be honest. Like, but I want to snowball it into other things. Like, you can monetize this, right? Like, you're doing the right things to take those steps to get to the point where you can start monetizing it, but you're also building that portfolio. So, like, yours is a win-win, right?
Yes, I would say that.
Okay. So, also, I'm working on my interviewing skills. They're not so hot, so just bear with us. I think the last thing I want to ask Shane is, you have all these things you kind of want to do with it, but where did the motivation come from? Like, where did the motivation and inspiration kind of really come from? It sounds like Bob Bueller and then the possibility of building that portfolio or monetizing, but really, like, when it comes down to it, what was the motivation for starting your podcast? Was it a particular person, event, thing, or, I mean...
I look up to Bill Simmons, and so for anybody who's in the sports world, Bill Simmons he's
got fired by ESPN.
He got fired by ESPN. But I respect him for his analysis. He thinks outside the box. He brings up topics that a lot of people don't bring up. So I always look like at him as like who I kind of wanted to model myself after. Well, except for getting fired. But anyways, he does a podcast now. So it's the Bill Simmons Show. So I listen to his stuff, and that's kind of like when I decided I wanted to do the podcast. I said, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I don't want to just do stats and recaps all the time on sports. We get enough of that in the mainstream media. I wanted to kind of take what Bill Simmons did. And even though he got fired, he found a way to do his own thing. And he's actually really successful doing it. So, like, it's kind of cool to see how he took that. He's a great, podcaster, took that and then ran with it, even though he got fired from his job at a mainstream network. So, he would probably be the one that I would say. I know a lot of people might not like that, but I respect Bill Simmons a lot for his opinion.
I think I kind of want to close this off. Like, I think this is going to be an episode on my podcast as well. I'm just going to take the audio from it and throw it on there. But I started doing these things as well. Like, I just want to finish up like what Shane mentioned. So I told you kind of the backstory of 60 Days to Living, how I left a job and everything. But I think the aha moment or the inspiration to start doing those things and start taking those steps was, Shane touched on it earlier, right? My great uncle told us that saying, like, don't forget to stop and smell the roses. So we went down to his house. We went on a sports trip. We were having a great time, and we were sitting there at his house, and he starts telling us this story. We were sitting there, we're laughing, okay? And he's just like, he looks at us, and he's like, guys, you guys are awesome. There's what, 5 of us? Yeah, 5 of us.
Yeah, there was 5.
5 of us sitting around just laughing, having a good time down in Arizona right before the Boise State game. He's like, you guys are amazing. Like, I'm so proud of you guys for doing this. We're like, well, what do you mean? Like, we're trying to figure out, like, he's like, okay, hey, thanks, man. He's a little old and kooky. And then he starts telling us this story. And he was saying that one day his son called him on the phone. He was like, hey, Dad, I need you to come over. I'm laying all these pavers in my backyard. I want you to come help me. And so he's like, okay. And he was telling us he went over there. He spent the whole day in the hot sun laying these hot pavers. Like, it wasn't that much fun, but he was so excited to be hanging out with his son and doing these things. He said he went home, and on his drive home, his son called him and said, hey, Dad, thanks. I love you so much. Thanks for coming out and helping me. And he said he got in the shower, and then when he got out of the shower, there was a phone call. It was from his daughter-in-law. And his daughter-in-law said, told him that in the time that he got off the phone with him in the car ride, till the time he got out of the shower, that his son had passed away. And he was like, from that moment on, like, he realized, like, life's short. Life's too short to not be doing what you enjoy. And so I remember he looked at all of us and he said, boys, like, don't ever stop smelling the roses. Like, and wasn't that like the motto we lived by, like, the rest of the trip? Like, we kept saying it over and over and over again, like, oh, you know what? Stop and smell the roses. Like, enjoy life. Enjoy the little things. Shane touched on that, like, taking joy in almost everything. Like, Shane doesn't waste a moment with his family. He doesn't waste a moment with those certain things. That's probably why he's so structured, because he realizes, like, I don't have any time to waste. Like, life's so short. Everything is so important, and I'm going to enjoy every single moment. So, like, that was like my aha moment. And then, you know, it kind of went away, and then it took other experiences and other things that I was doing in life to make me realize, like, man, life's too short. Like, I don't want to spend any time doing something I don't love. Like, I'm sick of doing things I hate. So that's like the whole thing of this. Like, I'm doing these things in my life because I want to find freedom, where I can do everything that I love. Shane's doing the same thing with this podcast. He's trying to find a way to do something he loves daily, and whether that's working for somebody else or doing it on his own. Like, so is there anything I'm missing on this show? So thanks for checking out a brand new episode of 60 Days Living. Whether you're watching this on the YouTube channel or listening to this on iTunes, because that's the only place I know how to load it right now. Thanks for checking it out, and we'll see you next time on 60 Days to Living.